I'm going to be introducing to you guys today just a simple Dominican breakfast. Um, and it's a bit simple. I will be focusing more on the wheat porridge just because it's simple but it's tricky, and you'll see why when I start explaining. So before diving into the recipes, Erin already touched on some of these. Some of the recipes that are mentioned are in on Clara's Dominican Cookbook. However, like Erin said, it's out of print, unfortunately, so it is on the website, and you can click on this link. Hopefully, Erin can circulate the PowerPoint around, and you can click on the link, or you can just type in DominicanCooking.com. So maybe I can drop it also in the chat after. And I'm going to be introducing two main simple breakfasts, which is a wheat porridge and the pumpkin mash, as well as a little extra recipe at the end to make your own ground seasoning, hopefully on your own time. It's super simple and it's great to, to add to your dinner. And again, like how Erin mentioned, at the end, when I finish my presentation, if you want to start making the wheat porridge, I will be here. I'll answer any questions, or if you want to make any comments. So the website, DominicanCooking.com, is such a great website. So when you get the chance, I would say definitely go on the website, browse. What's great is that you can tailor your preferences. So as you can see here, you can tailor it by category. So do you want bread, um, beans, drinks, pasta? Um, do you want recipes for breakfast, dinner, lunch? You can also specify by diet and ingredients. And on the bottom, you can pick, if you're a seafood person, maybe you want to find some seafood recipes or salads, seasonings, party foods, things like that. And not only that, but the website is so great because if you want to just learn a little bit more about the culture, you can do that on the website. I believe there is a part on the website where you can, where Clara actually talks about just the culture itself, the food, how we are, how we like to celebrate, and things like that. And there's also videos that accompany most of the recipes on this website. So I would definitely say take a look at it when you get the chance, more in depth. And you never know, you can, end up finding your next favorite meal on the website. So a traditional Dominican breakfast normally has a lot on it. This dish that I have here, I actually made this for my friend because she was bothering me for a traditional Dominican cuisine, and it's basically mango con salami cebolla frita. So translated, it's basically mashed plantains with salami and fried onions. And for this particular plate is fried cheese. Um, so this is what a normal dish would look like. It's meant to be heavy so that it can last you for a good chunk of the day. Um, but because not everybody has the time to make this, and sometimes we get a little lazy, that's where the following recipes that I will show is much simpler when you don't feel like making anything super elaborate like mango and salami and cheese. So the first recipe is wheat porridge, and the ingredients that you're going to need. I'll try to go over a little bit slowly for maybe any of you guys who want to start gathering your ingredients. It's 2 cups of water for this recipe, 3 cups of milk, 1.5 cup of farina or cream of wheat, half a teaspoon of salt, 3 sticks of cinnamon, a pinch of clove powder, which I would say is optional if you want more spices like myself. I love a nice um, wheat porridge with tons of spices. You can also use cloves instead of clove powder. Um, 3/4 cups of sugar. Sugar will be according to your preference and how sweet you want the wheat porridge to be: 2 tablespoons of butter and also a pinch of nutmeg. Again, nutmeg is also optional. And if you also want, you can add a little bit of vanilla extract also. Again, it depends on how sweet you want it to be, how much spices you want there to be. Again, if you're like me and have a problem, you can add as much spices as you want. So as for the process, just get to the next one. You're gonna grab a medium saucepan, or a I would say a medium-sized pot, whatever you have, and you will add in the 2 cups of water, the 3 cups of milk, the 1.5 cup of cream of wheat, the half teaspoon of salt, vanilla extract if you want, the 3 cinnamon sticks, and again the cloves or clove powder if you want. Again, that's optional, and your 3/4 cups of sugar. But again, add the sugar as you feel is necessary that works for you. So you can add this all in the pot before you even turn on the fire yet, just until you kind of have everything together. And then once you have everything there, you can turn on the heat, and you would have it about high to medium. And what's important about this recipe is you have to keep stirring it. That's the only pain about it. It's such a quick recipe. It takes 10 to 12 minutes, but it does require your attention. If you don't pay attention to it and you don't keep stirring it, it will stay stuck to the pot, and it will also just stay stuck to each other. So you will end up with a very clumpy farina, and I don't think anybody wants a clumpy farina. So that's really, really the most important part, is you have to keep stirring it. So while you have that on high medium heat, you want to keep stirring it with a whisk or with a spoon, and just keep stirring. So if your arm hurts, I am so sorry, but you have to keep stirring. You have to keep stirring. And then eventually you will start seeing it starting to thicken up. So this is what it should look like. So on the, oh, too far. So on the left side, you see that it's starting to thicken up. It hasn't even started boiling yet, right? And on the right side, that's once it starts to boil. Once you see that the mixture is starting to boil, you have to lower the fire really, really, really low. I'm talking about really low. You are going to see it simmer, so you don't have to worry if it's too low that it won't simmer. It's going to simmer, and you have to keep stirring it. You probably don't have to stir it as much as you did in the beginning, but you definitely want to keep stirring it every couple of seconds until you reach your desired consistency. Normally, a farina is supposed to be quite thick, but everybody's different. I like a very thick farina because that's my personal preference. So instead, for me, 12 minutes, it might end up being 15, just because I like a very thick farina. But if you don't, you can definitely have it a little bit lighter than that. So then afterwards, when it's done, transfer it to a plate and let it cool for about 5 to 10 minutes. So I would say my tip is, if you're someone in the morning who, likes to get ready, and, I would say quickly make the farina, because you have to keep stirring it, and then just leave it there for a couple minutes and you can get ready for your day. And you know that when you come back, your farina is nice and cool, and you can eat it without a problem. It tastes really good. And you can top it however you want. If you're feeling fancy like me, you can add cinnamon, because that's just how I do it. But you can also top it with fruits. You can do blueberries, strawberries, apples. You can maybe you want to get extra fancy and add some, you know, granola crackers or something if you're feeling a little extra fancy. This recipe can be made without the water and butter. So maybe one day you want to try this recipe again, you can do it without water and butter, and the process is still the same. There's really nothing different about the process, and it still tastes really, really good. So, um, And then the second recipe, I won't focus on this too much because this recipe in itself is quite simple. I would say maybe the more intricate part would be like the onions, if you want to have onions on it or something, is a pumpkin mash. So the ingredients for this would be one pumpkin. It can be a small pumpkin, just for like a day or something, or to last you a few days. 1 and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, red onions or regular onions, which will be fried and garnished on top of the pumpkin mash, 1 tablespoon of fruit vinegar or just regular apple cider vinegar, just any kind of vinegar you like, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and my advice is to cut the pumpkin into small pieces because if they're in larger pieces, I find that it takes about a good 15 to 20 minutes to cook. But if you cut them in really small pieces, it'll take about maybe 10 minutes instead. And, you know, boiling pumpkin isn't really that difficult. Mashing pumpkins isn't really that difficult either. There's a cool video on the website. It's 40 seconds, but it's really just cool to see the process. And so again, you boil the pumpkin for about 10 to 15 minutes. You add a teaspoon of salt to the water and you let it boil. Once you can actually put it in with the skin, so you don't have to worry about peeling the skin. What will happen is when it boils, you will see the skin actually come off very easily. You don't have to worry about peeling the skin off or anything like that. You can just add it there, and it'll just kind of fall off on its own. So you don't have to worry about uh, peeling pumpkin skin. I've done it once, and it was horrible, and I almost hurt myself. So you don't have to worry about that. Once it's boiled, remove the skin, begin mashing. You can add a little bit of that water that it was boiling in and add to it so they can get nice and smooth. You can also add a little bit of butter to it, also to smoothen it out. And I would say the most tricky part is frying the onions. So for the onions, you grab a pan, heat it with oil or butter. I usually use butter. You add the onions. How much onions you want to cut is up to you. I usually cut a whole onion about 3 to 4 slices for me personally. And then you can add 1 tablespoon of vinegar and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And you will cook it in a medium to low heat until it reaches your desired texture. And this could be until it turns translucent, or you can even cook it until just super quick until it's almost raw. That's usually how I make it for myself. Another way to fry the onions is instead of just traditional salt, you can actually use chicken bouillon. So you can actually just take a really small corner, like literally the smallest corner, because chicken bouillon has a lot of flavor. And so you can literally just cut a small corner, add to it. The same with the vinegar. You can add about half a cap size and let it fry. And then the same thing, you wait until it reaches your desired texture. And great thing, just like with the last recipe, you can pair however you like. If you don't like eggs, I mean, if you don't like onions, you can pair it with eggs. You can poach an egg, you can fry an egg, you can boil an egg, or you can do a little bit of everything because why not? I like a nice hearty meal. You can pair it with some avocados, or if you're weird like me, you can pair it with some fish or sardines, as I usually like to pair it with. So what's great about these recipes, just like with any recipe, is you can modify it, you can change it in ways that work for you. If you don't want pumpkin mash, you could just boil the pumpkin as is, peel off the skin, and top it however you like. Same thing again with wheat porridge. You can pair it with fruits or anything. Um, and I have here about the homemade seasoning, but that's last, so I'll mention it last. But yeah, it's really, really, really good, and it really doesn't take that much time. So I would say before getting into my extra seasoning, I have to discuss why Spanish food takes so long. We usually make our own seasoning. In DR, we call it sofrito. I know that other Spanish cultures call it differently, but that's how we call it. And depending on you, for us, it takes a really long time because we usually make a lot of it that will last us for weeks. So, and we also blend our own garlic, which is really fun. And we know that when it's time to cook, that's all we need, and we're good to go to start. And we like to make sure that our food is typically fully cooked. So whether it takes an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, we like to make sure that whatever we make is really fully cooked. And we don't like to see anything pink. So for us, like if you see anything pink, it just freaks us out. We're like, that's not cooked. So for us, having something fully cooked is really important. And as we're cooking, we keep adding more seasonings to it and spices, and we'll add cilantro and onions and more peppers so that it can continue grabbing flavor as it's cooking. So it really takes a lot of seasoning and a lot of time, but it's worth it because in the end, the food is just really good. And
We just had a question, Katherine, about using
okay,
different squashes for the pumpkin mash. Are
yeah.
there other options?
As in, what do you mean? Like if you don't want pumpkins?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things that we will do, I actually make this for my dad, is we will actually just boil some green bananas. And that's kind of like another alternative that we do if we don't want pumpkin mash. So it's it's the same process. You can peel off the skin of a green banana and let it boil for again around 10-15 minutes and then mash it. Or you can leave it with the skin, and the skin will kind of be easy to peel off afterwards. So usually that's our other alternative. Or if you want to take a crack at the mashed plantains, go for it. It is a little bit more work for that one though because of the texture. It takes a bit longer to boil, so about 25 minutes. And not only that, but you have to add cold water in between. So it will start to boil the plantains, and after about 10 minutes or so, you have to add cold water to it, and then you let it boil for another 10 or 15 minutes. You take it out, and then once you take the plantains out, that's where the real work comes in because to mash it, it's the texture is quite harsh, so it you really have to put in that arm muscle to mash the plantains. And as you're mashing it, you just keep adding a little bit more butter, and you keep adding a little bit more of the same water that it was boiling in, and you just keep mashing and mashing until it gets nice and soft, and maybe there's no clumps in it or anything like that. So that's usually two other things that we do. So if you definitely want to do a little bit more work, then give the plantains a shot. If you want something a little bit easier that as an alternative, then maybe try with the green bananas. The green bananas are a little bit more on the sweeter side, but not too sweet. It's very mild. And again, with the same thing with this, you can pair it. So the green bananas is usually a go-to that I make for my father on the weekends, and he typically likes it with sardines, or I'll make it with a boiled egg, or I'll fry an egg, or sometimes I'll pair it with a fillet. Um, whichever really floats my boat. I have to imagine what he wants to eat that day. So, yeah, and I also make him the pumpkin mash, and he's all for pumpkins. So those are the two other things that I tend to mainly go for if I don't want a pumpkin mash. Okay. Any other questions or okay. So the seasoning, again, you can kind of make this on your own time, and again, you can um, modify this as you like. This is also on the website. Um, and this is the recipe that I have written down is actually the first recipe that is right here, which says Karima's recipe. There's also another one right underneath, which is much more simple. But the first recipe here, which is supposed to be 2 bunches of cilantro, 4 radishes, which is optional. I normally don't use radishes, peppers, all the colors, because each one has just its own distinct flavor that makes the seasoning that much more interesting. Onions, 1 onion, 5 cloves of garlic, lime juice. I would say lime juice is also kind of optional depending. on if you want more of a tangy seasoning. Um, Chop all the ingredients and you pop it in a blender, add a little bit of water, and you blend it. What's important about this recipe though is that you don't want it to be too thick and you don't want it to be too watery. If it's too watery or too thick, it's going to be difficult to take it out because it needs to be stored in the freezer so they can last you for a period of time, so that you don't have to worry about making it over and over and over again. It's just there in your freezer. You can take it out maybe about 10 or 15 minutes before, and add it to your dinner, when you start making it. So yeah, that's the important part about this. And I believe the website has a third recipe as well, which um, excludes some of these ingredients and adds other ones, and vice versa. There's, things that are included and things that aren't. It really depends on um, you. Normally, for me, I add more than just this, which is why for us it takes extra long, just because we add a lot more ingredients than this, and we will also add salt, a pinch of vinegar, and those red sazon packets. So that's normally how we do it. So for us, it takes a long time. Um, but if you don't want to do too much chopping, you can also do this recipe on the bottom that says Virgo's recipe, which is just olive oil, tomato paste, oregano, and cumin. So I would say that's more of the easier and quick option if you don't want to do too much chopping. And there's also a third one, which is more similar to Karima's recipe, but I believe has more ingredients and excludes some of these that are on Karima's version. So that's the extra bonus seasoning recipe. And that concludes my presentation. And I guess I can go back, Erin, to the wheat porridge straight to the beginning for people to look at if they would like to. So actually, just go back to the beginning. And if anybody has questions, you can definitely ask me. I'll stay here for as long as you'd like. If you want to ask questions or have more comments, or maybe want to learn about some other alternatives to wheat porridge, because there's definitely quite a few, but I haven't made them in a while, and I probably should go back to doing it because they're just really good.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So my porridge has gotten very thick now. I've been whisking it. It hasn't really hit a boil that I can see, but I feel like, oh, there's a bubble. Okay.
Okay, so once you start to see that bubble,
Yeah.
you want to lower that fire.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can continue stirring again until you kind of get it as thick as you want it to be, really.
Okay. And do I want to be whisking, using the whisk to stir, or should I be using a spoon?
Either a whisk or a spoon. It really depends on you. I usually alternate between the two. That's just how I do it, but you can do it with either one. It works either way. If you're more worried about clumping, then I would definitely say use a whisk just to be safe.
Okay.
Yeah, I've definitely have some accidents along the way, so.
Okay. And is there a consistency that I'm going for, or just is it really up to taste?
I would say it's really up to you. So technically it's supposed to be on the thicker side.
Okay.
I want it to be thick, but again, everybody's different. So if you're not into a thick consistency, you can definitely make it much lighter.
Okay. Okay, great. And just could I add water if it gets too thick?
Yeah, you can add either a little bit of water or a little bit of milk.
Okay.
Yeah, you can add a little bit, definitely, if it gets too thick.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just want to thank Katherine so much for stepping us through that wonderful presentation. I'm really excited to make my wheat porridge. I'm going to give it a try. Let me see if I can enlist my daughter to help me. Yeah, you. I'm just wondering if folks have, maybe you've made this recipe before, or if people have favorite breakfasts, maybe we could share, because maybe there's things that we haven't tried, or, you know, just to get the conversation going. You can drop anything in the chat. I really like a savory oatmeal. It's kind of similar, I guess, to, you know, cream of wheat in terms of like the idea of a grain base. And it is sort of like a juk, which is like a rice porridge, a Chinese rice porridge, sort of cooked down a lot, but it's just with oatmeal, which is really nice if you want to take a break from rice.
Yeah, I know of one recipe. It's with oatmeal. Um, it it's but it incorporates chocolate. So you add chocolate and you try to break down the oatmeal and make it as soft as possible. And then you can actually, well, the traditional way is you then strain it because, you know, I don't really like the texture of oatmeal, so you can strain it or you can keep it. So there's also that one that we tend to go to sometimes. It's really good. It's not my favorite, but it's really good. There's also a couple other ones similar to wheat porridge. We do cornmeal, which would be something similar with milk and stuff like that. So sometimes I will make that as well, which is a similar process but slightly different. Maybe if I can find that one, I can um, send it. Maybe the website has it. I can probably look for it. But there's also that alternative that we'll do is cornmeal, again with milk and spices and things like that, and it also tastes really good.
Oh, that's great. I think this was such a serendipitous thing, you know, starting the year off, you know, starting the day off. Katherine, maybe you could just talk a little bit about, you know, why you came to this website and this sort of collection of recipes and your choice of recipe.
Yeah, so one of the things that I like about the website is that it has everything. I was surprised to see recipes in there that I have been looking for that my dad didn't know of. Because my dad was the first to start teaching me how to cook, and he basically knows a good chunk of the recipes. But there were things that even he didn't know or that my grandma didn't know. And so I was like, there has to be a website somewhere that will have all of these recipes that I'm looking for. So I um, saw this website and I spent hours just going through it. And I found all these recipes that I had been looking for, all of these drinks that I had been looking for, that I remembered having such a long time ago, and kind of just felt I guess kind of sad that I hadn't had it in such a long time. So it, you know, this website has really everything. uh there's this drink on the website that's a really great summer drink. If you get the chance, it's called Mori Soñando. It sounds weird, but it is so good. And I know for a fact it's on the website, um, but it just has such an array of recipes that I couldn't back down. So I'm always on it and trying to find something that I haven't seen or haven't had in a really long time. So I think that was one of the main things that brought me to the website. And I was like, why not?
That's great. Are there any other questions for Katherine? Are folks making this recipe tonight, the wheat porridge recipe? You're not required to, but it sounds like Lauren is. I'm gonna give it a try myself. You know, we can just hang out. We have the playlist as well. Oh, wow. Okay, so here's a good guiding picture from Katherine if people are following along.
Yeah, so that it's not too fast.
And just, you know, in closing, in terms of like this formal part, I wanted to invite everyone to consider contributing to the quarantine cookbook, we're collecting recipes that we will circulate in PDF form to the NYU community. So we're hoping to collect recipes that are sort of like winter warmers, 5 ingredients, and I'll drop in the email alias where you can email those to. If you're interested in contributing, we're hoping to get that together in the next few weeks. So we'd love for you to participate as well. Maybe if there aren't any other questions, I know obviously it's the evening before everything starts up again, in the new year. We can just hang out for as long as you'd like and cook. I can turn on the music if you'd like, and we can just enjoy the rest of the evening. I just want to thank you to Katherine for making this wonderful presentation, and we can put that in the shared folder as well, so folks have access to it.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope it turns out well.
It's so delicious. I just gave some to my kids.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, so
they gave it a thumbs up.
So,
I'm so happy. Okay, great.
There's just one last mention, Lauren, since you did the dish. We are doing a photo contest.
Okay.
So if you want to take a picture, or anyone here wants to take a picture of your completed dish and send it to us, we're having a photo contest, and we are posting to our Instagram and things like that. So we're hoping, as the months go along with the Cookbook Club, to keep adding pictures there from members. So there's a chance to win a Bear Burger gift card when you enter the photo contest. So please snap your best photos, and I'll drop in the my email address for that, so you can submit that as well. Excellent. Well, yeah, feel free to hang out, everyone. And again, Katherine, thank you very much. Appreciate it.